In this video, I got the ultimate pitching advice for every pitcher. If you're a pitcher, you need to listen to this one. I wish I would have known this stuff before my career ended, and I just want to share my experiences with you along the way, what took me from T-ball all the way to some of the highest levels of professional baseball. So if you're a pitcher, pitching coach, or parent of a pitcher, listen closely because we've got 5 good tips here that you want to take note of. So the first thing is you only have one throwing arm. At least I do. I only got one. I can't throw with my left arm. If you can, good for you, but most people can only throw well with one arm. So you have to take care of it is my point, right? So you have to understand how much throwing you should be able to do. Not only be able to do, but is okay for you to do. If you're doing too much throwing, you can damage your arm. In fact, there's a big epidemic going on, especially with some of our younger players. A lot of people are tearing their rotator cuff, their labrum, having Tommy John surgery. So a group of the game's best doctors came together. They actually created this resource for us called pitchsmart.org. And they put together a guideline of how old you are versus how much you should be throwing, how much rest you should be getting, how much throwing during the year you should be doing, and all of this recovery protocol within that. So I defer to those guys, the smart guys, when it comes to the amount of throwing you should be doing. So definitely check that out if you haven't checked it out before, because it's a great resource for understanding how much throwing your arm should be doing. When it comes to taking care of your arm, you also want to have a recovery routine. And I made a great video called the 6 R's of recovery, where I talk about 6 different things that you can do after throwing to make sure that your arm recovers quickly and efficiently so that you can get to your next throwing practice or game session, so that you can be fully recovered, ready to go, and that you're not tearing your arm down too much over time. And another thing when it comes to taking care of your arm is that you have to be prepared before your season. I get so many comments in the comment section below about, "Coach, my arm is killing me. What can I do?" Well, a lot of the time when I get to talking to them, it's because they didn't do any throwing in the off season, got to the season, and then aired it out the first day of practice, their first week of practice, and their arm is hanging, it's killing them. So you have to make sure that you're always prepared for the amount of throwing that you're going to be doing. A lot of times when your arm is sore, tired, tight, killing you, painful, it's because you weren't prepared for the amount of throwing that you were doing, or there's a mechanical issue that you got going on. The second tip I got for you pitchers is to own the mound. You have to own the mound. You have to be out there and you have to be confident. Confidence and conviction are king when it comes to being a dominant pitcher. If you go out there and you're pitching to not fail versus you're out there pitching to have a lot of success, it's 2 totally different things. Let me say that again. If you're out there pitching to not fail versus being out there pitching to have success and dominate guys, it's 2 totally different pitchers. And once you can wrap that around your mind and understand the difference of them and move from this guy who's scared to fail to this guy who is just out there doing his thing and having success, man, pitching becomes so much more fun. It's so much more freeing to play the game when you attack it that way, right? So you have to have the confidence and the conviction in yourself to go after those batters. Not only because you're going to feel better, but that energy is going to vibrate off of you. You know, batters feel that. The opposing team feels that. They can see that when you're up there on the mound walking around like, and you're just like, you got that swagger and that conviction and confidence. They feel that. They see that. And those guys who are hitting in the box, who are hitting not to fail versus hitting to, have success, those guys are going to be affected by your energy, and you're automatically going to beat those guys and win in those situations. It's so important when you're out there on the mound to get into the zone, get into the zone, flow state, you'll hear some people call it. And it's all about creating the confidence and the conviction and the energy so that when you're out there, you're not overthinking, right? When you're out there on the pitcher's mound, you don't want to be thinking like, oh, I got to do this little thing with my legs and do this with my arm, thinking about your mechanics or overthinking what you should do in the situation or with the batter and this and that. It's good to think out there and understand situations, don't get me wrong, But when you're in the zone and you're in that flow state, everything just kind of happens. And that's what you want to work on as a pitcher, trying to get into as soon as possible and stay there as long as possible. So just putting yourself into the mindset, first of all, knowing that it's something that you can accomplish, knowing being in the zone and being in flow or having that flow state is something that you can accomplish. And then understanding over time, it's not going to happen the next time you pitch. You can start working on it the next time you pitch, but understand over time you can learn and train yourself to get into that flow state quicker and stay there longer. So start to think about that now, so down the road it's easier and you can get to that place a lot quicker, stay there for a lot longer. And if you're able to do this, you're going to be able to play big. And playing big just means that you're giving that energy off, right? Again, think about someone who's playing small, right? Playing small is just like someone who is scared and their shoulders are rolling forward like, oh man, I hope this guy doesn't hit this ball. The opposite of that is playing big. I'm the man on the mound. I got the ball and here it comes, sucker, try to hit it if you can, right? That's playing big versus playing small. So you want to be able to play big, have the confidence and conviction to play big, get into that flow state and that in the zone, you know, the in the zone state so that you can play big, breathe big, right? I learned this in Dr. Hanson's book, Play Big, the ABCs of Baseball. Act big, breathe big, commit big, right? Play big. If you can do that, you're going to have a lot of success. Number 3 is to own the plate. We just talked about owning the mound, but as a pitcher, you also have to own the plate. And that starts with pitching inside with confidence, right? The longest time when the catcher used to call pitching inside for me, like you call fastball inside, my first thought process would be, oh man, I hope I don't hit this guy, right? But once I learned how to change that mindset of pitching not to fail to pitching to succeed, I had a lot more success because then my mindset was like fastball inside. Okay, here it comes, sucker, get out of the way if it's gonna hit you. And I would just throw it in there with that full conviction. And if you can do that, if you can own the plate like that and have the confidence to pitch inside, you're gonna be such a more successful pitcher because guess what? When you pitch inside hard like that, batters cannot get comfortable. Nobody wants to get hit with a fastball. I mean, that hurts, right? So when you can pitch inside hard like that, you're keeping them off balance, and it's hard for those guys to really dig in and hit those other pitches low and outside or when you're throwing your off-speed stuff. It just keeps them guessing and unsure. You provide uncertainty, and when there's uncertainty, you become the man because they're scared. They're playing scared. Another thing you can do to own the plate is to expand the zone, right? You create the zone. And when you're in an 0-2 count, 1-2 count, when you're ahead of the count, instead of throwing strikes all day long, start to expand that zone, right? So you can start throwing pitches a little bit off the plate in those counts and get them to commit and swing to it, especially when you're ahead of the count, right? Because as a batter, if they're 0-2, 1-2, what are they taught to do? They're taught to protect, swing at anything close, you hear the coaches say all the time, right? So if you're throwing pitches that look like strikes and then expand out of the zone, a lot of the times those guys are going to chase those pitches, swing at them, and miss it. So expanding the zone is another way that you can own the plate. And another way to own the plate is to get the sixth spot. The sixth spot is something I learned when I was pitching at Auburn University, and it's when your catcher sets up about 2 ball lengths on the outside part of the plate. Now, if you've been hitting your spots throughout the game already, and then your catcher sets up out there and you hit that spot without making him move, then you're going to get that strike called a lot of the time. So if you can establish that early on that you're hitting your spots and then get that 6th spot, guess what? Hitters are going to hate it because a lot of time they're not even swing. It's 2 ball lengths off of the plate. It looks like a definite ball, but you hit that catcher right in the glove. The umpire, a lot of the time, is going to give you that strike call. I know you may not believe it now, but try it in your next game and you will see that umpires give it to you if your catcher doesn't move. So that's another great way to own the plate when you're out there pitching and have a lot of success. One other way to own the plate is to understand perceived velocity versus your actual velocity. And this is just understanding that the closer to the eyes that an object is, the faster that it looks. Let me give you an example. If there was a train, let's say there's mountains behind me, miles away, and you see a train up there, up in the mountains, and it's going along at the speed that trains go. I don't know how fast trains go. But what does it look like from this perspective? It looks like that train is going very slow because it's so far away. Now you take that same train at that same speed and you put them on a track right here. How fast does that train look like it's going now? Very fast. And that's because how close it is to your eyes, right? You can use this in pitching. When you throw a fastball up and in, that fastball is going to look a lot faster than a fastball low and away, right? So you can use this to your advantage. Now you could take that even a step further and throw a fastball up and in, and then throw a changeup or an off-speed pitch low and away. Now you not only have the perceived velocity change, but you also have the actual velocity change. So now you've got a super effective setup pitch to the second pitch. It's so hard for a hitter to come in after a up and in fastball to hit a low and away fastball or a low and away off-speed pitch. It is such a tough thing to do. You're establishing the inside part of the plate, you're getting them uncomfortable, and then you're changing the actual velocity and the perceived velocity, and it's a very tough thing to do. It's a great way to own the plate as a pitcher, have a lot of success. Tip number 4, faster is better. And I know we have the discussion all the time like, oh yeah, well, if you're not throwing strikes, you're not going to be a successful pitcher. True, very true. You got to be able to control the ball. But if all things are equal, faster is better. We want to increase our velocity. I don't know why there's such a negative tone to this, especially if you're doing everything correctly, you have good mechanics, you're being safe, you're not putting any extra stress on your arm, right? Faster is better. Let's just be honest, faster is better. So we want to improve our pitching velocity. The first way we go about improving our pitching velocity is having the intent to do so, right? When we're out there throwing and we're out there pitching, we have to want to throw the ball fast. We have to want to pitch fast. So when we're on the mound, we have to give it our full energy, right? Our full effort, right? I see so many guys out there like, how come I can't throw any faster? But I see them, they're just trying to put the ball in there exactly where they want to. So you have to first have the intent. Now, I know a lot of guys, when they have that intent and they try to let it fly, the ball goes all over the place. This is something that you have to practice. So yeah, you have to, again, you have to control your pitches, but you also want to pitch faster. Pitching faster is very important. It's better, all things remaining equal. Another thing that you got to focus on when it comes to increasing your pitching velocity is mechanics, right? And I could talk for days and days about mechanics, but I won't bore you. I'm going to give you 3 big ideas that you can focus on right now for this video at least. And number 1 is leg drive, right? We want to be able to create energy through the ground force, right? Push this world away from us so we can have an equal and opposite reaction the other way and create energy going towards our target, the home plate, right? So that's the first thing, having good leg drive. I see a lot of guys who don't really drive off of the mound. They don't use their legs, right? If you ever seen a pitcher and you're like, oh, he could throw so much faster if he just used his legs. It's easy to see when it's out there, but it's all about the leg drive, using those legs and driving off the rubber. The second thing is to have good separation, hip to shoulder separation, or rotational energy, right? So if you're being very short and your hips are rotating with your shoulders together, you're not getting very much separation. You're not getting much torque in here. Your core is not winding up so it can unwind, right? You're not getting that good rotational energy. So that's another thing you can focus on if you're not pitching as fast as you want to, is focus on your hip to shoulder separation, creating more separation. Here's a quick tip for that, is when you actually separate your hands, separate closed off at 45 degrees, closed off or more. Even righties, sometimes you'll see closed off to third base. So instead of separating straight to your target with your glove, separate closed off. Now you're setting this up so that you're really closed off. When your hips start to open, now you've got this separation that you can unwind with to throw a lot faster. And the third part of the pitching mechanics, again, there's a lot more than this. In fact, I made a video called the 9 Pitching Velocity Killers. If you want to learn a lot more about the pitching mechanics, definitely check that one out. I'll leave a link in the description where you can watch that one. It's a great one. But for the third one, for this little mini session right here, is the front leg fulcrum. And the front leg fulcrum is just being strong with your front leg. I see a lot of pitchers when they pitch, they think about getting out to their target and they're bending their front leg and trying to reach out there, and that's no good. You're leaking a lot of your energy out that way. What you want to do is pitch against your front leg and tell the energy, we can't go out that way. Let it continue up your body and out through the arm. So the front leg is going to want to be firm and into the ground. It's actually going to help your hip come around, so you're actually going to be providing yourself some more rotational energy, and you're not going to be leaking your energy. It's going to transfer through your kinetic chain out through your arm, and you're going to pitch faster because of that. Another way you can increase your pitching velocity is through explosive training, right? And if you're in the gym, you're getting your squats in, you're getting your core work, your medicine ball throws, your plyometrics, your sprints. These things are super important when it comes to being an explosive athlete. And guess what? contrary to popular belief, pitchers are some of the best athletes out there on the field. At least that's my opinion as a former professional pitcher. But you want to be explosive is the main thing, right? The more explosive you can be, the more explosive of an athlete you can be in the gym, that will transfer to on the mound, right? It's all about creating energy. The more energy you can create on the mound, the faster you're going to be able to throw the ball. So if you're in the gym working to be more explosive, you can translate that into the mound so you can create more energy, in return throwing the baseball a lot faster. And one other way to increase your pitching velocity is to get on a throwing program. And I don't mean you have to go out there and buy a program. You can. There's a lot of great programs out there. I have a program. It's actually on sale. I'll leave a link down below in the description here. But you just have to, when I say get on a throwing program, I mean you have to have a structured idea of what you're trying to accomplish, right? And it could be as simple as starting at a point and then progressing it over time, right? And that's where I see a lot of guys fail, is like they go out there and like, I'm gonna do 300-foot long toss and throw the ball as far as I can on day one. They come back and they're like, my arm's killing me, I'm hanging, right? That's not a way to increase your throwing velocity or pitching velocity. You have to start slow and build up over time, build up your intensity, right? So if you start easy on day one, the next day you can either increase the number of throws or increase your intensity, right? And that's what you want to do over time, little by little, number of throws or intensity as you go and build up before your season. That's a great way to increase your pitching velocity. Don't do too much too early or you're gonna hurt yourself. And the last tip, number 5, is to choose your arsenal, right? We all gotta have an arsenal as pitchers. We have to have good pitches. What I recommend is having 2 fast ones and 2 slow ones, right? You need at least 1 fast one, 1 slow one to be a great pitcher, because we wanna disrupt the batter's timing and balance. The way we disrupt their timing is by throwing fast pitches and slow pitches. That's how we disrupt their timing, right? The way we disrupt their balance is by throwing in and throwing out, throwing up, throwing down, right? If we can throw up and in and then down and away, that's a great way to disrupt a hitter's balance. So if we can disrupt their batter's timing and balance, then we're gonna be successful as pitchers. If you have 2 fastballs and 2 slow balls, 2 off-speed pitches, this is a great arsenal to have to accomplish messing up the batter's timing and balance, right? If you've got a fastball that moves this way and a fastball that, stays straight or moves this way, now you got those 2. If you have an off-speed pitch that moves this way and an off-speed pitch that moves this way, now you're really able to control all parts of the zone with different pitches, disrupt their timing and their balance, and you're gonna have a lot of success as a pitcher. Another thing you want to think about when it comes to selecting your arsenal is to focus on depth, right? The depth of the pitch. Having depth on your pitches is super important. I know we talked about pitches that move, right? But in my opinion, moving downward late movement is the best movement, right? Because if a batter is swinging and your ball is moving down, it's very hard for them to adjust on that plane of the pitch during their swing. But if your pitch is moving on the same plane as their bat, then it just becomes a timing issue for them. But if it's moving downward and it's moving downward late in the throw, they're gonna have a lot harder time to make good contact with that pitch. So when you're creating your pitches or working on your pitches, focus on having good depth, late depth on those pitches. You're gonna have a lot more success that way. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. There's 2 videos I want you to check out. The one I already mentioned before, 9 pitching velocity killers. The other one is the top 10 pitching grips. Those are 2 great videos. If you got the time, I'd love for you to check them out. I'll see you in those videos. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if these pieces of advice helped you. Of course, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.